get right now to Mostafa Askari. He's the chief economist for the Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy. And Mostafa, I know you've been poring over the document. I think it's something like 400 pages or so. You were in lockup. Let's pick up on that question that Vashi and Amanda were talking about just a couple of minutes ago. We know there's tons more spending on things like defense, but for the average person out there, are they going to walk away after hearing about this document and say, I feel better off after today. I have more hope in the future because my life is going to get more affordable?
I don't think so. I don't think this is a feel-good kind of a budget for average Canadian that they can feel this right away. This is more of a long-term vision for the government, that the economy needs to pivot from what we have had over the past 10 years, that we had the impact and focus on social safety net. Now we are pivoting to measures that would incentivize companies and private sector to invest in Canada so we can see a higher rate of growth and higher productivity. That's the aim, that's the goal of the budget. So no, I don't think the average Canadian will look at this budget and say, well, I'm better off right away. It may take some time before we see the impact of these measures, but that's exactly the vision of the government, is to prepare the economy and Canada for different kind of economic development and growth over time.
The interim PBO had said that this level of spending was unsustainable. I mean, based on the numbers that you've seen today, which exceeds even the previous projection. Again, the deficit projected to be $78.3 billion. Is it a sustainable level of spending?
I think it is still sustainable. I just actually did a back-of-the-envelope calculation myself based on the sort of a system that you use for calculating fiscal sustainability, and we are going to see the debt to GDP ratio sort of stabilize over the next 10 years or so, and then comes down if the government does not add a lot to its spending over time. I mean, if we maintain the current fiscal structure with the plan that the government has, we're still looking at a fiscally sustainable, in the long run, fiscally sustainable situation.
A lot of this, and you mentioned it, Mostafa, is aimed at growing the economy over the mid to long term to buttress some of the hits that the economy is taking right now and might in the future. You mentioned you identified productivity as key to that growth. The budget does the same thing, and they've got something in here called a productivity super deduction, basically a suite of tax measures aimed at creating that kind of growth and spurring productivity. Based on what you see and what they have outlined there, do you anticipate that will be the case, that will happen?
Well, productivity is really a major complex issue that nobody can really figure out exactly how you can actually do something to raise it. We have done all kinds of things over the past 20, 25 years to help increase productivity, including tax cut and other measures for businesses. It's a tough one to figure out and predict over time. They're doing the right measures to incentivize. If the firms come in and actually invest $500 billion over the next 5-10 years, yes, that will certainly increase productivity. But again, it is an if there. If what we have done here is sufficient for getting the private sector to come in and invest. And that is really the issue. But in principle, on paper, these are the measures that they needed to introduce and implement and see what happens. I don't think anybody can say for certain that productivity is going to increase, and by how much. None of us can say that.
Is there any way to know if that private investment will actually come? Like they're saying very conclusively, this will lead to $500 billion of additional private investment over the next 5 years. Is there actually any way to know that?
Not necessarily. I mean, if all the measures that they have introduced, if they implement those and go through it, and if private sector does not actually come and have enough confidence in the Canadian economy to invest in Canada, then we are in real trouble. Because that means essentially there is nothing the government can do really to incentivize and encourage private sector investment. But I think we have to sort of hope and accept that in principle those things should help investment in the future.
Okay, Mostafa, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for your analysis. Appreciate it as always. Mostafa Askari is the chief economist for the Institute of Fiscal Studies, and Democracy.